Namaste and greetings to all. Welcome to another episode of One Way of Thinking About It, where we take on questions from people from around the world, and I attempt at answering these questions from my deepest understanding in this present moment. This week is a continuation of last week, so if you missed last week, please go back and catch up on this week so you can be up to speed with where we're going. All right, with the foundation laid, let's get it. So last week we had a combination of questions that we combined, one from California, one from Florida. Again, thank you for checking in. The questions read, how can a so-called loving God allow such horrible things to happen to good people? Second question, how do you have faith in a higher power when you witness someone close to you suffer from something so greatly and not from their own actions? So to be completely transparent and honest with you from the start, I just finished sitting silently for quite a long time and being able to become aware of my thinking and my thoughts. Diving deeper into these questions, I seen was going to be challenging for the average person. So I want to just open that up, because to really take it further to answer these questions, we have to start to look at ourselves individually and what makes us see life as good or bad, happy or sad, horrible or wonderful. We have to look at and question our worldview, our relative perspective. And that can be very challenging for people when it is something that they hold very close to them. Very challenging to our mental structure that we have created of how our life should go, how the world should be, how things should be. People hold these constructs and these beliefs very strongly. However, with that said, again, that's why this is a open format where someone comes to this, and this is not me just finding random people on the streets and just speaking to them, because as the teachings that I follow, Vedanta teaches, is knowledge is to be taken, not given, because for this simple factor, when knowledge is given and the recipient is not at a open receptive place, it can be very triggering to them and not free for them. However, when a person is seeking to truly understand their suffering and their mental agitation and the things that have been causing them suffering throughout their lives, when they seek out higher knowledge and information, they are more open and receptive to hearing new ways of thinking, new ideas to help them to see or untether themselves from their relative perspectives. So to just bring us up to speed from last week, with that out the way, to bring us up to speed from last week, we were touching on God as the X factor, the universal law of causation, cause and effect, the world that we live in of pairs and opposites, the faith that we have, the unconscious faith that we have in so many things compared to the conscious way of having faith, and relative to absolute perspective, or relative perspective to absolute truths. So to look at the first question, how can a so-called loving God, first let's stop there and take out God, and we'll use X. So how can a so-called loving X allow such horrible things? So horrible things. Horrible things is a individual's perspective to deem that that's wrong, that's right, that's horrible, that's wonderful. That's a relative perspective to say. And we have to again look inside and say, why do I feel that's horrible? When we don't know the full scope of things. In the moment, it could be something that's very triggering to us, very jarring for us. But every experience that we experience, we have the choice, the two choices, to either one, suffer from that experience, or two, evolve. And one way of thinking about life is we are here to evolve to something higher. The difference between plants, animals, and human beings. Plants, they come, they are what they are. A seed, an apple seed, is going to produce an apple tree 99.9% of the time. A tiger, 99.9% of the time, is going to be ferocious. A tiger is a tiger. That's its nature. That is its being. It is set in that. A tiger can't make the choice of going from being a carnivore to a vegetarian. Their nature is set. A plant's nature is set. An animal's nature is set. A human being is constantly becoming. We did not come fully set. So we are constantly evolving through every experience, through every situation, is for us to evolve to some state. And it's different ways of thinking about that state. But there's one thing that we can say: through everything, everyone is constantly trying to evolve, become better, or become something more, or become something different. Becoming is a human being, is constantly becoming. So through every experience, we have this choice, or we have this decision to make, especially when it comes to things that we deem as bad or horrible or sad or whatever it may be. We have to make this choice if we choose to suffer through this, or we choose to evolve from this. So, and then to move on to allow such horrible things to happen to good people. And again, good people is a relative statement, is a relative term. Jesus said to, in the Bible, a scripture that I love, he without sin cast the first stone. We all have sinned. We all miss the mark, either in thoughts, words, or actions. We miss the mark. So who is a good person? What is a good person? That is, again, one of those individual relative statements to say, that's a good person. They do some charity, they do some things, they do good work. They're doing good things. How could this happen to them? Again, we don't quite know all of the reasons that effects happen to people, but we do know that there is a cause to it. And if we can open up as individuals and to give it time to see, a lot of the times, some of the times, I know through my own life, some of the most horrible things, some of the most bad things have been some of the biggest jolts and the biggest blessings for me in the long run, after looking at them and processing and seeing the way that this path has this sort of straight line with it, that if you allow the suffering to transform into evolving, you will see that that horrible thing might not have been the worst thing for you, or such a horrible thing as we thought in the moment. So going into the second question, how do you have faith in a higher power? That is a conscious choice that a person has to make to have faith in a higher power. We have faith unconsciously in so many things. You have faith that when you walk out of your house and do your daily chores, or outside in the world, go to work, do whatever you're going to do, that you're going to make it back home safely. You have faith in this because there's so many people who walk out of their door every day that do not make it back. So this is a faith that you have, but this, again, it's easier. What is the old saying that ignorance is bliss? It is easier to have unconscious faith in all of the things we have faith in on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. But when it comes to consciously having faith in something, the biggest deterrent with that is our minds. Because faith cannot be understood with the mind or the intellect. So this is the biggest deterrent with someone consciously having faith. It is not something that your mind or the intellect or your knowledge or your understanding is ever going to be understood. It is faith. It's walking in faith. Something that you cannot see, something that you cannot understand, something that you cannot know from the mind or the intellect or your feelings in that moment. You have to walk in faith, in the darkness, in your lack of understanding, in your not knowing, to get to that place of understanding and knowing. So that is one way of thinking about how do you have faith in a higher power. So then to go into when you witness someone close to you suffer from something. So witness someone suffer, suffering is I don't want to say suffering is a choice, but suffering is something, it's an experience, it's an emotion, it's something that does not stay. Suffering is not something that is a continuous line. So for someone suffering, there's happiness, there's joy, there's suffering, there's happiness, joy, there's suffering, there's misery. These are the feelings and emotions that we all go through. Some of it stays longer than others, but they all come to pass. And it is an experience that we as human beings get to experience in this life. And through that experience, again, we choose to either suffer from that experience or evolve from that experience. When you witness someone close to you suffer from something so greatly and not from their own actions. Again, it's that universal law of causation. There is a cause for every effect, every action. There is a cause for. Again, the thing that causes us so much mental agitation and suffering is when we do not understand something mentally or intellectually, and especially when it's someone close to us and it affects not only them, but it affects us also. We want to understand, and this is where it's so very difficult to become objective to that and not suffer from it and see, how am I supposed to evolve from this? Okay, so this is a breakdown of the questions, and again, this is just one way of thinking about it. This is just a different perspective to think about it. Any clarifications or other questions, please leave in the comment box. Thank you for joining me for such wonderful questions, such tough subjects to approach, because it is approaching the individual and challenging what we know, and that's always such a tough thing to come across with any of us. We have our world views of our likes and our dislikes and our preferences and our feelings and emotions that run and govern our lives. So when those are challenged, and we're forced to look at those can be very challenging. So again, thank you for tuning in for this episode of One Way of Thinking About It. Much love, health, peace, prosperity to all, and namaste.